Title: The Warmth Behind Part 2 of 2. She woke to sunlight. Real sunlight, not the anemic gray that usually filtered through her curtains, but actual warmth on her face. She'd forgotten to close the blinds. She never forgot to close the blinds. Her body felt different. Rested, yes. 8 hours uninterrupted, her phone confirmed. But something else. Lighter. Like she'd been carrying furniture upstairs for years and finally set it down. She sat up. The bedroom looked exactly as it had when she'd fallen asleep. One room. Solid. The closet organized but lived in. The succulent green on the windowsill. She went to it, touched a leaf. Firm, healthy, real. Her palm, she checked. The red line was gone. She showered, made coffee. The morning routine felt different, not rushed. She noticed things. The way steam rose from the mug, the specific sound of her footsteps on the hardwood, the weight of the towel on her shoulders. She was present. For 3 weeks, it continued. She went to work, came home, cooked meals instead of ordering delivery, read books, slept well. Her coworkers commented on it. She looked healthier, more engaged. Her boss mentioned her improved focus. She felt whole. But it started small. Thursday evening, 3 weeks after the merge, she came home from work, unlocked the door, stepped into the hallway. Paused. Something was missing. Not physically. The apartment looked identical, but there was an absence, a gap she couldn't identify. She continued to the bedroom, sat on the bed, pulled out her phone to check messages. Stared at the screen. His name, a text from 2 weeks ago. She'd forgotten to respond. No, not forgotten. She'd never noticed it. She scrolled up. 3 texts from him. 4, checking in, asking how she was. The last one. I guess we're done then. She felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness, just absence where feeling should be. She tried to remember his face, could picture it, objectively, like a photograph. Brown eyes, crooked smile. But the emotional context was gone. She remembered facts. They'd dated for 8 months, broken up 6 weeks ago. She'd been sad. Had been. Past tense her memory supplied, but she couldn't access the actual sadness, just the knowledge that it had existed. She set the phone down. Went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, the yogurt she'd bought Monday, still there, unopened. She'd meant to eat it for breakfast every day this week. But looking at it now, she couldn't remember buying it. She remembered the store, the aisle, her hand reaching for it, but the intention behind the action, why yogurt, why that brand, was missing. Someone else had chosen it. The other. She closed the fridge. Over the next week, she cataloged the gaps. Her mother's birthday. She knew the date, March 14th. But the associated memories felt distant, observed rather than experienced. She could describe her childhood birthday parties in perfect detail, but couldn't access the feeling of being there. No warmth, no nostalgia, just information. Her favorite song. She still knew which one it was. She'd told a coworker just yesterday. But when she played it, nothing stirred. She understood why she'd once liked it, could analyze the melody and lyrics objectively, but the emotional response was absent. The promotion she'd worked toward for 2 years. She'd gotten it 3 months ago. Should feel proud. She knew she should. Could perform pride when discussing it. But underneath, nothing. She was functional. More functional than before, actually. She went to work, performed well, maintained relationships, but she was performing, not feeling. The parts of her that had felt too much, the anxiety, the exhaustion, the constant weight, were gone. But they hadn't gone alone. Friday evening, 4 weeks after the merge. She sat on her bed, The journal still on the nightstand. She hadn't opened it since that night. She opened it now. The entries were still there. The other's handwriting, her handwriting, the conversation they'd had through the pen. She turned to a blank page, picked up the pen. Wrote, "What did I lose?" Her hand didn't move on its own, no string, no vibration, just her fingers, holding a pen, waiting for an answer that wouldn't come. She wrote anyway. "I can't feel anything anymore. Not completely. I remember feeling. I remember what it was like to care about things. But now it's just knowledge. I know I loved him. I know I was proud of my work. I know I was close to my mother. But I can't access those feelings. They're behind glass. I'm whole, but I'm not me." She stared at the words, set the pen down, lay back on the bed. The apartment was quiet, not the oppressive quiet from before, just absence of sound. She thought about the other, the version of her that had stayed home, maintained the space, existed peacefully. That version had been content, calm, present. But that version had also been alone, had filled days with small tasks, organizing closets, watering plants, reading books, simple pleasures, uncomplicated existence. No relationships to navigate, no difficult emotions to process, no messy human complexity. The other hadn't loved him either, had watched her go to his apartment, pretending, and felt nothing, because the other had never been the part of her that loved. The merge hadn't healed her. It had averaged her. She'd gained presence, routine, functionality, lost depth, connection, the ability to be hurt, and you couldn't lose the ability to be hurt without losing the ability to feel anything that mattered. She sat up, looked around the room, the organized closet, the healthy plant, the made bed, the perfect, maintained space. It felt like a museum. She was a curator, not an inhabitant. She stood, walked to the closet, pulled out clothes at random, dropped them on the floor, went to the kitchen, left the coffee mug in the sink unwashed, returned to the bedroom, unmade the bed, rumpled the sheets, created small chaos, felt nothing. She grabbed her phone, scrolled to her mother's contact, stared at it. Called. "Sweetheart, I was just thinking about you." Her mother's voice. She recognized it, knew she loved it, couldn't feel it. "Hi, Mom. How are you? You sound different. Better?" "Yeah, I don't know." Silence on the line. Then, "What's wrong?" And there, a flicker. Not much, but something. The awareness that her mother could hear wrongness in her voice, that someone knew her well enough to detect it, that she was known. "I think I made a mistake," she said. "Tell me." She did. Not the impossible parts, not the hallway, the temporal split, the other, but the feeling underneath, the trade she'd made without understanding the terms. "I fixed myself," she said, "but I fixed myself into something that doesn't feel like me anymore." Her mother listened. Then, "You sound like you did in college, after the breakup with Michael. You decided you were done with relationships for a while, focused on school, got straight A's. I was proud of you, but I was also worried. You were functional, but you weren't happy. You were just going through motions." She remembered that, vaguely, through the same emotional distance she now felt toward everything. "What happened?" she asked. "How did I stop?" "You didn't stop. You let yourself feel again. Slowly. It hurt. You cried in your apartment for 3 days when you realized you still missed him. But after that, you came back. What if I can't this time? Why would this time be different?" Because this time the split was literal. Because she'd merged with a version of herself that had never felt these things. because the absence wasn't protective. It was structural. But she didn't say that. "I don't know," she said. They talked for 20 more minutes. Small things. Her mother's garden, her father's new hobby, surface conversation. When she hung up, she felt something. Small. Fragile. Like touching her hand to the space where the other had been and finding not emptiness, but a scar. Evidence of wound. Evidence of healing. Evidence of something that had happened. Proof she could still feel. Just not the way she used to. That night, she dreamed. She was in the hallway again, but it wasn't collapsing. It stretched normally. At one end, the front door. At the other, her bedroom. In the middle, a figure. Not the other. Someone else. A third version. The one she'd been before the split, before the exhaustion, before she'd started leaving pieces of herself behind. That version looked at her, young, whole, unbroken. Spoke. "You can't go back to me, but you don't have to stay like this either." Then what do I do? Learn to feel smaller. You traded intensity for peace. Maybe the answer is somewhere between. The figure faded. She woke up. 6 weeks after the merge. She sat on her bed, the journal open, pen in hand. Wrote, "I'm not who I was. I'm not going to be. The version of me that felt everything, that loved desperately, hurt deeply, cared intensely, is gone. I merged her with the version that felt nothing. Now I'm neither. But maybe I can build something new, something that feels less, but still feels, something that doesn't burn out, but doesn't flatline either. I don't know if that's possible, but I have to try, because this, existing without feeling, isn't living. It's just maintenance." She closed the journal. Stood. Walked to the window, opened it. Cold air rushed in. She felt it, really felt it. The bite on her skin, the way it made her pull her shoulders up, made her breath catch. Physical sensation. She still had that. Maybe that was the place to start. She grabbed her jacket, left the apartment, walked outside into the November night. The cold intensified. Her breath clouded. She walked faster, felt her heartbeat increase, her muscles working, her body responding to the world. Not emotion, not yet, but sensation, proof of existence. She walked for an hour, came home, fingers numb, cheeks stinging, climbed into bed without showering, pulled the blanket over herself. Felt the warmth return gradually, the contrast between cold and warm, discomfort and comfort. Small feelings, but feelings. She closed her eyes. Thought, tomorrow I'll try something harder. Didn't know what that would be yet, but the fact that she wanted to try, that was something. That was a beginning. End.